Welcome to The Positioning Show, where we discuss topics related to the practical application of positioning for marketing, sales, and product teams. I'm April Dunford, a consultant, author, and the world's leading expert on positioning for B2B technology companies. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of The Positioning Show. Today, I wanted to talk about how to take your positioning and translate it into a sales narrative. Now, some of you might know that I'm working on a new book. You don't know that? Where have you been? I should be talking about it more, I guess. I am working on a new book. My first book, obviously awesome, was a book about positioning. Not surprising. That's my topic. And in that book, I describe a methodology for getting a team together and getting your positioning really tight. In that book, at the very end, I talk about how you might want to take that positioning and translate it into a sales pitch in order to test the positioning. Now, there's a few reasons why I think that's a good way to test your positioning. The first one is what the marketers will want to do is they'll want to test the positioning by doing an A/B test on two different landing pages. This, my friends, is a very bad idea for a whole lot of reasons. The first reason is that in order to do that, we have to take the positioning, turn it into messaging, and then put it on a landing page. Well, now, my friends, we are not just testing positioning anymore. We're testing the landing page design. We're testing copywriting. We're testing the traffic that you're sending to that page. There's a lot of things that can go wrong here. And if that A/B test passes or fails, you don't actually know whether it passed or failed because the positioning was bad or the messaging was bad or the layout was bad, or maybe you had the wrong traffic there, or maybe you didn't actually get enough traffic and run the test for long enough. There's a lot of reasons why you don't want to do an A/B test on a landing page. In my book, I describe how a better way to do this might be to just take the positioning, translate it into a sales pitch, and then let's get qualified prospects and let's pitch them the pitch with the new positioning. When we're doing a live pitch, there's a lot of good things we can see there. Like we can actually tell, is the customer getting excited? Is the customer getting confused? Is the customer asking questions that would make you think, hey, they don't understand what this stuff is all about? Is the customer comparing you to the kind of competitors that you want to be compared to? You can tell a lot in a sales pitch. The other thing is that we might not know whether the sales pitch is the best possible sales pitch we could ever have, but we can tell whether or not it's better than the old one, especially if we have an experienced sales rep involved with us doing the test. That sales rep will have a lot of experience with the old pitch. They'll know what the reaction was like to the old pitch, and they'll be able to feel if the new pitch is working better. So this is what I recommend to teams all the time. Now, if you read my previous book, I sort of tell you like, hey, you should turn this positioning into a sales pitch and then test using that. But then I don't really tell you how to build a sales pitch. That's on purpose for a lot of reasons. One was I thought, man, if I want to teach you how to build a sales pitch, that's like a whole separate book. And the other thing was I kind of thought, hey, we know how to do that, don't we? Like we know how to build a sales pitch. Everybody's out there using a sales pitch already. I don't really have to come and teach you that, do I? And if you look at the book, I have like a one-page description of here's what an outline might look like for a good sales pitch. And what's funny about that outline is it's not even really the outline that I use for building a sales pitch, because if I use the one that I use, the step number one would be a step called insight, and I would have to explain what that is. I didn't want to write a whole chapter explaining it. So I did the step one. I said, well, just start with the problem and it looks like this, even though that's not actually what I recommend that people do. And so I just left it at that. I thought, you know what? This is a previously solved problem. Nobody's going to read this page anyway. You just take your positioning, use whatever sales pitch structure you have, turn it into a sales pitch, test it. Here's how you do it. But let me tell you, it turned out I was wrong about a lot of my assumptions there. In having worked with over 200 companies now doing positioning work, I have only worked with one or two that I felt like had an actual sales pitch structure that they had used to construct the sales pitch that the sales team was using in a first call. So not a qualifying call, a first substantive call with a qualified prospect. That was surprising to me. I thought that we already knew how to do this. It turns out maybe we do not. And so this was a big problem for a bunch of reasons. So the big reason is that most of the failed positioning work that I see fails because the positioning does not survive the jump across the wall from marketing to sales. So how do we ensure that the positioning does survive that and that marketing and sales are actually using the same positioning and working from the same positioning? Well, there's two things. One, you involve sales in the process of doing positioning and creating positioning. That way, we're getting all the good information that we can get from the sales team, and they get to comment and talk back on stuff that they think doesn't make any sense in the positioning. They'll understand better where the positioning comes from, and we'll have their buy-in to actually using the positioning when we're done. So this is why we want to involve sales in the process of doing positioning. The second thing is that if we really want sales to buy into the positioning and use the positioning, we're going to have to help them take that positioning and turn it into something they can use in a sales call, specifically a pitch deck. So, as I mentioned before, I've worked with a lot of companies and nobody's actually using a sales pitch structure. So what are companies using out there? Well, they're using a lot of different things. Most of the companies out there are actually doing something that doesn't look that much like a pitch at all. In fact, what they're doing is a product walkthrough demo. It's an exposure of the demo, like here's all the tabs and we'll walk you through each of the tabs and we'll show you all the features that we have. The thing that's missing in these particular product walkthrough demos is any sort of positioning. So if we don't give sales a sales pitch deck that helps them tee up that positioning, they're actually leaving the positioning to the customer to figure out. And I don't think that actually works very well. So if we really want to have our positioning survive the jump from marketing to sales, we're going to have to take it and translate it into a sales pitch. So how do we do that? How do we build a good sales pitch? What does a great sales pitch look like? So first of all, I think we actually have to back up a little bit and adjust our attitude or frame of reference about selling. This is kind of fundamental and a big deal, but here's the way I think about this. Most founders that I talk to, and folks that work inside startups in general, people in sales, people in marketing, people in product, would agree with me when I say selling is hard. It's hard. In fact, a lot of us in the startup world come from the product side of the house. And so that's our comfort zone. We're very comfortable with products. Sales, that's hard. But I think we should actually turn this around a little bit. I'm going to say something that's maybe a little bit controversial, but I actually think that buying is hard. Buying is hard. Now I know what you're thinking. Some people, when I say this, I say buying is hard. They look at me like they go, what? What are you talking about, April? Buying is not hard. That's called shopping. That's fun. I wish it was my job to just be shopping all day. And I get it. I get it. Buying some things is legitimately fun. Like I like shopping. I like buying a pair of shoes. I like buying a drink at the bar. Those things are fun. But you know what? There's a whole class of things that we buy that are not fun. Like, how about buying insurance? Is that fun? Oh no, buying insurance is not fun. What about buying a house? No, that's actually really stressful. There's nothing fun about that. In fact, if you think about most of the things that folks buy in a B2B situation, things that businesses buy are super, super unfun things to buy. I'm going to give you an example. This is a totally stupid example. So stick with me on this. It has nothing to do with tech, but I'm going to give you a non-tech example and then I'm going to run it back to a tech example. So, stay with me. So here's the story. It's called April Buys a Toilet. Yes. So I live in Toronto. Toronto is a great town. You should come and visit. But let me tell you, Toronto is full of dumpy old houses And those houses are full of terrible bathrooms. I bought one of those houses. And so I hired a guy, a contractor, to come and fix up the dumpy bathroom in my dumpy old house. And so the contractor comes and he's going to fix it up. And he says, hey, you know what we need here? You need to actually go and get a new toilet. And I'm like, okay, fine. I've never bought a toilet before. I don't actually know anything about toilets, but hey, it's just a toilet. How hard can it be? So off I go to the toilet store. I get to the toilet store. A guy comes up to me and he says, can I help you? And I said, yeah, I'm here to buy a toilet. And he says, what kind of toilet do you want? Like, and up until right this moment, I thought, whoa, like, what do you mean? What kind of toilet do I want? One that flushes? And the guy's like, well, we actually have quite a lot of toilets here, ma'am. In fact, if you go back to the back, there's the toilet section. You know, you can go back there. There they are. There's all kinds of toilets. Beside the toilet will be a little sticky and it says how much the toilet costs and all the toilet features. You go back there, have a look, you know, figure out which toilet that you want, and then come back and tell me and I'll, you know, sell you the toilet. I'm like, all right, fine. So I go back there and what do I see? No kidding. 1,000 toilets. 1,000 toilets. And they all look the same, but they're not the same at all. They're all different. Like some of them cost a couple $100 and some of them cost like $1,000. And on these little stickies are all these features and they're baffling. I don't know what any of them mean. They're talking about trapways and single and dual flush assist stuff. And some of them have this thing called a flapper and some don't. And I don't know what the frick a flapper is. And so I spend like an hour in there looking at all this toilet stuff. And I come to this realization. I do not know enough to be able to actually purchase a toilet. So I do what any reasonable person would do. I leave the store and I go home and I start Googling toilets. Turns out toilets are full of technology, like so much technology. Like there's all this stuff, you know, like single and dual flush stuff and water efficiency. And they come in different seat heights. And there's all this stuff about trapways. And there's this flapper thing that I still don't know what it is. And there's like, I learned the most disgusting thing about toilets. And now I'm going to teach you, you'll never unknow this fact. There's a score and it's called the MAP score. That stands for maximum performance. And that is the amount of solid waste that a toilet can handle in a single flush. 300 to 600 grams is good, but some toilets can handle up to 1,000 grams. That's 2.2 pounds. It's like a little dog. It's disgusting. I don't want to know this. In fact, I don't want to know anything about toilets. And now I have a head full of toilet knowledge. I still don't know what toilet to buy. I'm freaking out low key. And finally I get this genius idea and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I don't have to buy a toilet. Maybe I can just keep the old toilet I got. It's old, but it was working just fine. And, you know, I'll just keep it now and I'll figure out how to replace it later when I'm not in the middle of, you know, a big bathroom renovation. So what happened there? I went to the showroom twice. I spent what felt like infinity on the internet. I spent 3 weeks on this little project trying to find a toilet. How many toilets did I buy? 0. I'm not saying that buying your next generation, whatever AI assisted software thing is exactly like buying a toilet. But yeah, actually, yeah, I am saying that. I think it's exactly like that. I think it's worse. Your buyers are going through the same kind of process because frequently you're selling to somebody who has never bought a thing like yours ever before. Now let's look at this. Let's look at how a typical software purchase gets made. Here's how it gets made. Let's take something easy, accounting software. So VP Finance wakes up in the morning and says, you know what sucks? Our accounting software sucks. We've outgrown it. We're in the middle of an audit. It doesn't do all the fancy things. I wish that it did. And so we need new accounting software. Now, does the VP Finance go and look for new accounting software right away? Oh, no, she doesn't. She's busy. So she goes into the office, she looks around and she like picks somebody like, you Joey, dude, go find us an accounting software package. Do all the research, figure out what accounting software we should buy. Come back, make a recommendation to me. I'm going to sign off on the check, and that's good. How's Joey feeling? Oh, Joey's not feeling good. Joey's like, oh man, yeah, I don't know anything about accounting software. I use accounting software. Maybe Joey used another type of accounting software at his previous job, but he doesn't know what the state of the art of accounting software is. He doesn't know who the vendors are in accounting software. He has no clue. So what does he do? He Googles. And what does he see? 900,000 million accounting software packages, so many of them, like 1 billion of them. And do they all look the same? Oh yeah, they do. They all look the same. Like they're all in the top right quadrant on G2 Crowd. There's like 9 million of them. I'm looking at the Gartner thing and all the other things. There's all these ones. And if I go on the website, every single one of them will say, we're the #1 accounting software, blah, blah, blah. They all look the same. They all look the same. And features. Oh my goodness. There's all kinds of features. And Joey doesn't know what half these things are. So what does Joey do? Oh, maybe he comes and he clicks that button on your website that says, give me a demo. Then what happens? Oh, we're giving him a demo. All right. Your salesperson's like, welcome, Joey. Sit down over there. Let me put you into my wind tunnel of features. Yeah, that's what we give him, the product walkthrough. This is the most common thing that happens. We're going to give you the product walkthrough. And what are we going to do? Here's a feature. Here's a feature. Here's another feature. Here's another feature. Hey, buddy, did I mention we have another feature? And Joey's freaking out. He doesn't know what any of these features are. Well, half of them, he doesn't know what they are. He doesn't know what the value of those features are. Why do they matter? Why do they matter to his business? He doesn't know. He doesn't know, do all the software platforms have these same features or just yours? So here's Joey. He's totally overwhelmed with all these features. Now, part of the reason why Joey's so stressed out right now is because if Joey makes a bad decision, bad things happen. It's not like you and me going to buy a pair of shoes. We buy a pair of shoes, we don't like them, no big deal. We just won't buy that kind again. Joey, this is different. This is a decision that actually has stakes. So Joey's thinking in his mind, well, wait, if I pick the wrong thing and I recommend it to my boss and then my boss disagrees, I'm going to look stupid in front of my boss. Maybe I recommend something and it turns out the rest of the accounting department hates it. Now they hate me. They think I'm a jerk because I'm the person that picked that thing. What if Joey picks the wrong software? They fail the audit. Well, now the whole company's in trouble. Maybe Joey gets fired. What is the easiest, lowest risk decision for Joey to make right at this moment? The easiest decision is to go back to his boss and say, you know what? Now's not a good time. Now's not a good time. We're in the middle of the audit. I looked at all the things. They look okay. They're kind of complicated. But you know what? The thing we have right now, it's not perfect. We're not totally married to it, but it's okay. And it'll do us for another year. And Joey's just going to kick that can down the road for a year or 2 years. And what he's really hoping is that by the time somebody decides that they need to go look at accounting software again, when the head of finance walks into the room and picks somebody to go do that evaluation, Joey's hoping that he isn't the person in the room that gets the finger pointed at when that happens. So I'm actually not done with Toilet Town. I want to come back to toilet for a second. I want to come back to toilets. That's not actually how my toilet story ends. It turns out I go back home, I talk to my contractor and I said, hey, look, I'm just going to stick with the old toilet. Contractor looks at me like I'm crazy. He's like, what are you talking about, lady? We took that toilet out of the air, recycled it. It's gone to the big bathroom in the sky. You can't use that toilet anymore. And I'm like, man, I got to go back to the toilet store. And he says, look, we need that toilet today. You go in there, you figure it out. And I'm like, all right. So I go back to the toilet store. So walking to the toilet store, I got a different sales rep comes up to me and says, hey, can I help you? And I said, yes, I got a toilet emergency, man. I've been trying to buy a toilet for weeks. I can't figure it out. And today's the day. Like I really, really got to buy a toilet. The toilet salesman says, oh yeah, I get it. Too many choices, right? It's hard buying a toilet. And I'm like, yeah, it is hard buying a toilet, man. It's actually, it's been shit. And he says, look, lady, we don't use that word here. It's solid waste. I'm like, dude, it's been solid waste. Like, sell me a toilet. And he says, look, I'm going to teach you how to buy a toilet. There's only 3 things you need to worry about: is quality, aesthetics, space. And I'm like, okay, teach me, toilet Obi-Wan. Quality, aesthetic, space. All right, how do I do it? He goes, well, the first one's quality. So know all those features you're looking at, like flappers and flush assist and all that stuff. All these features are just a way of thinking about quality. Like, some toilets are higher quality, some are lower quality. Lower quality toilets won't last as many flushes. Higher quality toilets, you can get a lot more flushes out of them before you actually need to have them serviced. And I said, well, dude, like, who buys a low quality toilet? That doesn't make any sense to me. And he says, well, actually, like, a lot of times you have a toilet in your house that barely gets flushed. Maybe it's a toilet in a spare bedroom. Maybe it's a toilet in the basement. Maybe you got a vacation property. There's a toilet there. Like, you'd be crazy actually to pick a super high quality toilet. That would be a waste of money. You could get away with one of these lower quality ones. Say, hey, that's neat. Well, actually, this is my main bathroom, so I don't want one of those low quality ones. I need one of these high quality ones because I don't ever want to call the plumber. He says, good. Okay, well, forget about those. Don't look at those anymore. We're just focusing on these. Second thing is aesthetics. Some people are going for a certain look in a bathroom. They want like a gold toilet or a toilet with a certain style to it. And those are good quality toilets, but you're going to pay extra for that fashion bit. And I said, well, look, I got 0 toilet fashion requirements. I just want a regular old toilet here. And so I don't want to pay extra for fancy fashion toilet. He says, great. Don't worry about those. Well, this is good. Now we're getting down to like a small number of toilets. He says, okay, the last thing is space. Some toilets have the tank goes in the wall, and that's because people have a really small spot for a bathroom. If you got a really small spot, you can save some space, put the tank in the wall. The downside of that is if the tank breaks, you got to break out the wall to get in there and fix the toilet. So, you got to think about that. Then I said, well, I got a lot of space in this bathroom, so I don't want to have to worry about breaking into the wall. So let's get the one with the tank outside of the wall. Okay, great. This is amazing. I'm down to like 3 toilets now. So I said, buddy, which one should I pick out of these 3? And he says, look, I got to come clean with you, lady. I'm actually the guy that works for Toto. So I'm going to tell you to pick the Toto toilet, but you can do your own research on that. They're basically the same. Toto one costs a little bit more, but if you research it, Toto toilets are really high quality toilets. People really love them. If you just want to buy a toilet and never think about toilets again, that's the toilet I would pick. Sold. Slap down the plastic, buy the toilet. Know what happened there? Was that salesperson being like a used car salesman, pushy sales guy? No, not at all. Not at all. Was he trying to explain every single feature? Was he giving me a toilet feature walkthrough? No, he was not. What he was actually doing was being a guide. He was being a guide. He was teaching me how to make a smart choice for my particular situation. Now, can we do that in software? I think we can. I think we can. But you know what? A lot of the times, we just don't want to. We don't want to because we've been taught things that are stupid, in my opinion. First of all, we've been taught that we should only talk about ourselves. We should never talk about the competition because we don't want to be seen as bashing the competition. But I think there's a way to talk about the entire market and help customers understand it in a way that isn't bashing the competition at all, in a way that's actually helpful for a customer that's trying to make a decision. The second thing is that we've been taught that customers need to make up their own minds. But I think there's an assumption that customers know a lot more about solutions than what they actually do. Customers are experts in pain. We're experts in solutions. We're the one that spend all day looking at all the competitors, thinking about all the different ways to solve this problem. We're the ones thinking about the state of technology and why it matters and what we can actually do with that technology applied to a particular problem. Why wouldn't we want to share our point of view on that? If we want to do a really amazing job of selling, we have to actually adjust our attitude here. We have to think about what we're actually trying to do is help be a guide and guide prospects through a purchase decision. Many of us do a product walkthrough or a first call in sales like we think the question that the customer wants answered is why pick us? But in B2B, that's almost never the question that the customer is trying to get answered. The question the customer has is, why pick us over anyone else? And in order for us to really answer that question, we're going to have to paint a picture of the whole market. We're going to have to explain why our approach to doing this particular thing is different than everyone else's. And we're going to have to make a case for why our approach is better than the other approaches for a customer like the one that we're actually pitching to. If you think about it, answering this question, why pick us over the others? Like the answer to that question is our positioning. Our positioning describes who are we competing against? How are we different? What is the value that we can deliver that no one else can? Who is that value really important to? What is the market that we intend to win? So what we actually need to do is take our positioning and translate that into a compelling sales pitch that helps a customer make better decisions for themselves. I'm going to get into exactly how we're going to do that. I'm going to break down how the component pieces of positioning map to a sales pitch, and I'm going to do that on the next episode. Thanks so much for joining again today. Hey, this podcast is new, and you know what I would love? I would love if you gave it a rating or a review. And if you want to give me some feedback, I would love to hear some feedback because this is all new to me and I'm still trying to figure out what this is all about. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you again next week.